what other profession out there has a camera following them on their body all day long? None. I mean, seriously, none. And not only that, not only is there no other profession that has that, you've got this expectation and the demand from the public to see everything we're doing at all times. There's not another career out there that it's like that. So that's something, that we have to carry on our shoulders all the time that people don't understand.
Yo, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of It's Needed, the podcast, where we discuss real issues involving law enforcement in the community. It's your boy Ryan Tillman, founder of Breaking Barriers United, and I'm joined today by the light-skinned wonder himself, Mr. Oh No, it's the Popo. What's up, my brother?
Oh, I can't call it, man. Just enjoying this cooler weather in Columbus, Ohio. How about you?
Doing good. And we are also joined again by the Mr. Sean Sticks Larkin himself again, man. What's going on, Big Sean?
I'm good, man. Hey, send some of that cooler weather down here to Tulsa. It's legit. It's like 98 out here today. Heat index is like 105, so it's brutal. But I'm doing well, man. Doing well.
Ooh, man. Yeah, it's been burning up here in Cali too. We were like yesterday. We had to go to a funeral. It was kind of weird. We celebrated the end of one person's life and in the beginning of a new life in the same day. So we went. My wife's great uncle passed away, so we went to his funeral yesterday. And then right after that, my cousin is having his first child. So it's kind of interesting, man. So, but yeah, to say the least, it's been hot out here to say the least. So what's going on, man? It is a good day today because today is the start of football season. So I'm super hyped right now. I got like 2 fantasy leagues going. And I'm looking at I'm like in church this morning, like looking, don't tell nobody. I'm like looking like, oh, what's my score look like?
Well, I know how it is out on the West Coast because remember I grew up out there, and you're right. The start of the football season is NFL out there on the West Coast, but I can tell you here in the Midwest, man, it's college football. We've already started. We're already a week into the season. My team's 2-0.
Oh, Lord.
So yeah, NFL has started, etc. But yeah, the football season started a week ago. I promise.
So are you a Sooner fan, Sean?
Oh, I mean, I had season tickets for 11 years. So, yeah, up until I got divorced in 2015, I had season tickets for 4. And when I got divorced, it was obviously kind of silly to have for 4 because that was my whole family. And then my daughter went off to Oklahoma State. So she went over to the other school. So I got rid of them, man. I try to still make a game or 2 a year, but I don't have my tickets anymore.
Hey, well, I got 3 other people that I know might like to go.
Well, they're all on the podcast right now.
Coincidentally, there's 3 right here, right?
Oh, man. No, that's super cool. Well, you got AJ over there. He's a Buckeye fan.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't even have to ask. I already knew.
Don't even got to ask. You already know what's up.
Hey, you guys are over there cheating right now in college football, though, bro. It's like you guys are putting like 100 points up on each team you play right now.
Here we go. That's what happens when you're good. That's what you do.
Well, and it's also, I mean, OU put up 70 yesterday, but the real league starts here, here in about another 2 weeks when we all get into conference play. It gets a little better. So
I don't even want to tell you guys what my team did yesterday. I'm ashamed of it.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, but speaking of cheating in football, can we talk about Antonio Brown?
Oh, my, hey.
Hey, he's in my fantasy team. I have had every range of emotions. Like, I'm talking down to the helmet where I'm like pulling my hair out. Like, I don't even got hair, I'm pulling it out. And then he goes up on the GM. I'm pulling my hair out. They still cut him a break. I'm like, all right, cool. We in it. They're going to let him play. And then he's like, release me. And I'm like, oh, my goodness. And then he gets picked up by the best team in the NFL. I'm like,
exactly.
I've been the same way. But I can tell you, I personally believe it's been staged. This whole stuff has been staged. I mean, from the helmet scandal. Because the interesting thing about the helmet scandal is he was talking about, I need my helmet to play. And so he's talking about, I'm not playing. So the day he gets the helmet that he's going to use, he makes a post that's advertising the helmet company that he's using. Yep. And then that company makes a post featuring Antonio Brown as, look who's wearing our helmet. I'm like, this was a money deal. I was like, this is a money deal all day long. This was not about a helmet. This was about, how much money I can make off of a helmet.
Hey, and then shook out for a quick $15 million contract.
Oh, I know, man. Yep. Hey, I'm not mad at him, though, as long as he puts some more points in my fantasy league.
That's what I'm saying. He on my fantasy team, so, hey, whatever.
Now, the moment he stops producing, then I'm going to just be like, hey, man, somebody get rid of this guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh man. Well, hey, thanks again, fellas, for coming on the podcast again. It's always a joy to do this podcast, and then Sean, man, it's just good to catch up with you. You're doing some amazing things, man. Catch us up on what's going on in your life, Sean.
Man, we're in the middle of our 3-week break right here between season 3 and season 4 live PD. We actually go back on the air September 20th. It's hard to believe, man, that we're going into the 4th season of this thing, and it's still rocking the way it is. PD Cam, another show that I'm involved with, which coincidentally will be some of the topic I guess we'll talk about today with body cams. We got another 12 episodes in the bag on that, and they'll start airing towards the end of this month. Not positive on exactly what date. And still out here hustling on these streets in Tulsa, man. The guys I work with, we just wrapping up a long-term case that we started back in May on some gangsters that are connected to a bunch of shootings and murders, and it's gonna be a big federal indictment with a whole bunch of guys, so that's keeping us busy here. And then just doing the single fatherhood thing, man. So just go. It's what we do, man.
Killing it.
Man, that's good stuff, man. And it amazes me how, Sean, you can just balance so much. I mean, it's crazy. And there's days where I'm like, man, like I just feel like I can't keep going, or I can't keep balancing certain things. And then I look at Sean, I'm like, well, let me get back to work, because I know I'm definitely not as busy as Sean is. So, man, that's good stuff.
Well, man, I appreciate it. Like I said, it's easier. My kids are older. I mean, I got a 22-year-old and a 17-year-old. So, I'm not trying to take care of little ones like yourself and stuff. And then, at work, man, as you guys both know, and I'll tell you this, if and when you guys get into the promotional process and move up the ranks there, the people that you work around and who work for you, man, they can make your job miserable, or they can make it amazing and easy. And I'm very fortunate. I've got a squad of guys and have for a long time, man, that have always made it enjoyable, and they make things easy for me, and I try to do the same back.
Man, that's super cool. Yeah, I'm speaking of promotional process. I just actually did my first testing for my promotional process here. So the good news is I made a list to get promoted. So now it's just a waiting game to see if I get promoted. So who knows? That list is good for a year. So anytime between now and I think it's going to be May, I can get promoted off of this list. So we'll see what happens, man. So
would that be Sergeant Tillman?
No. It'll be Corporal Tillman if that happens. So it'll be Corporal Tillman. So,
okay.
So we'll see what happens.
Sergeant has a better ring to it, man. Sergeant's got a better ring to it, and a better paycheck.
You ain't lying about that. That's why Sean's taking us to all the football games.
Exactly.
There you go. Come on, man.
Exactly.
AJ, what's new on your end, man?
Oh, I can't call it. Just loving life. As I said on the last podcast, Shelby is pregnant, so we're going through all of that. Appreciate it, brother. I appreciate it. House shopping, just trying to do the adult thing,
you trying to be grown now.
I'm trying, yeah. You don't got no choice. When you got a little one coming, you gotta flip that switch. So
it's like when you're younger and your mom will be like, oh, so you want to be grown now, huh?
Yeah, like, no, I don't want to be, but I gotta be now. So
oh man. Hey, so I don't know, did you look up the Officer Down Memorial page at AJ?
I did. So the last time we recorded was August 25th, and we came in at 78. Today we're at September 8th, and we are coming in at 85. The Officer Down Memorial page only had 2 new officers listed. I'm not sure why that is, but they had Deputy Jeremy Voiles of the Chickasaw County Sheriff's Department in Mississippi. His end of watch was 8/28 of 19 due to a auto crash. And then the second one is Under Sheriff Stephen McLeod of the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department in New York. His end of watch was 8/29 of 19 due to 9/11 related illness. So I'm not sure why the website only has 2 of them, but I'll look into it.
Wow, that's crazy, man. So it's been some crazy trying times. I was talking to Saint yesterday. For those of you guys, our listeners out there that don't know who I'm referring to, Saint the Rapping Cop, that's his Instagram handle. He's out in Baltimore doing his thing, and he's doing some amazing things. He actually just released another album, which I listened to while I was working out the other day. It's fire. I was like, this is pretty good.
Talent. He's talented, man.
Yes, he is
talented.
But he was telling me, he said, I guess Baltimore's been crazy. So I asked him, what's been going on out there. I guess he said they've had 2 officers that have been shot in the past 2 weeks, and then he said they've had a crazy amount of homicides. They're about at 237 on the year for homicides in Baltimore. So we are living in some crazy days. And then one of the recent videos I just posted up was a female deputy out this way by where I'm at, and she was going on it was a call for service because the suspect's mother called and said her son was acting up. Don't know if it was mental health related or not. I'm gonna assume it was. And she gets there, and lo and behold, guy just starts going to town on her, ends up beating her up, and then takes her gun. Shoots a couple. They're wrestling. Gun goes off twice, and he's actually able to strip the gun from her. Points the gun at her, shoots at her again, doesn't hit her, and the gun actually jams. It looks like, and then once again the gun jams. Then that's when the responding officers arrive on scene, and they end up shooting him. He ends up in the hospital. I guess he's gonna live. I think he only got shot twice. So it just can go from 0 to 60 that quick, and I think people don't realize how fast it can go that bad. So. Crazy times.
I seen that video and immediately got frustrated because I've talked to a lot of police officers who are now hesitant to use like the necessary force to end the confrontation as soon as possible. Because I mean, we'll take my instance or my incident for example is I punched a guy. It made national news. They made it seem like it was the end of the world. I was this rogue police officer. I was racist. So a lot of police officers worldwide seen that, and now they second guess themselves when they're involved in an altercation. And we just recently had an incident here where 2 police officers were wrestling around with a guy. And I'm not saying that they could have punched this guy or could have did something differently, but I'm saying that because of the negative media or the media that tends to portray things on one-sided, we now second guess ourselves. So something I just want to say to every police officer out there, or if you're considering this field, is if you are involved in an altercation, in that altercation as fast as you can. This ain't a fair fight. We're not wrestling with nobody. That's how people get hurt. If you're involved in an altercation, end it. And I'm not saying that she could have done something differently, or that the officers here could have done something differently. I'm just saying that if you're listening to this and you're involved in an altercation, end it as fast as you can.
Go ahead, Sean.
And just to follow up on that, obviously I know the same video you're talking about as well. And if I remember correctly, it's like 8:45, 9 o'clock in the morning. Mm-hmm. And so for those that are in law enforcement, we know, day shift officers have a tendency to be a lot of older officers that are kind of just riding their career out and things like that. I don't know if that's the case with her, but it's also an eye opener to the public in general, a reminder to us in uniform that, man, it doesn't matter if it's 2 o'clock in the morning. Some car stop you stop, or a call like this at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, I think it was, they're going to somebody's house and dealing with that. And just following up on what AJ said, man, you couldn't be more spot on. We, not to story tell, but we just had a car stop the other day that ran from us. It's a male and a female in the car. The female gets out, then the dude gets out, gets back in the car, and we're doing like a high risk, guns drawn car stop on them. And then he gets out of the driver's seat, hands up in the air. There's people out there recording with their cell phones. And, he's yelling at them to make sure they're recording. We've got, no right to do what we do. And I've got a pepper ball gun, and I start lighting them up with it. I'm like, dude, you're not listening. You're going to get lit up. And, we end up having a foot chase and capturing him and bringing him back, and he's still running his mouth. And, we all know it's totally justified in shooting a guy with a pepper ball gun that's not cooperating. Mm-hmm. The cell phone footage that somebody out there gets it, and they get it to the media without even trying to talk to us. They're going to put that on the air. The image of it might look bad, but there's a lot to the story. And, I just try to reiterate to my guys that I work with, or even when I teach at the academy, I'm like, listen, in this day and age, everybody's going to be watching for sure. They're going to wait for you to mess up, but know your department's policies and procedures. Know what the law is,
and you're good.
Work within both of those, and you're fine. Yep. No matter what. Hey, sometimes this job is violent. I mean, it gets violent at times. But as long as you work within those parameters, you're going to be okay.
Man, so that's let's just get right into it then, because the last 2 podcasts we've had, Sean, actually the one before that, me and AJ, I call that our passion, our podcast insurance episode, because man, we were just going, just talking about how we feel in so many different ways. And then the last one, we had this special guest on, Nick, who did a phenomenal job. And I don't know if you guys know this, but Nick he's already reached out to me and told me that I guess 7 or 8 officers have reached out to him that are going through issues both mentally, and so they're going to get some help. And so that was a very, very important episode. But I've been wanting to talk about the issue of body cams or lack thereof. and get everybody's personal take. And so the reason I want to talk about body cam so much is because we live in a new day and age, and Sean, who's been in this business a lot longer than I have, AJ has seen both the parts of law enforcement that predated body cams, and now you're working in an environment where now everybody wants police officers to wear body cams. So I want to basically start off. What I want to do is we'll go around the table. I want to get your guys' personal opinion of body cams, and then we'll talk about how they've either helped or they haven't helped. And so I'll give my personal take on body cams. When I started working in police work, I started in 2013-ish. And that was right around the time where our department actually just made the switch to body cams. So right when I actually got hired, they were still using like the little small recorders. And then by the time I was off of training, everybody had an issue body cam. So I've really only known life with the body camera. I will tell you that body cameras have helped me in so many different ways. I've had people call and complain on me multiple times and then said I did something. And when they went and checked the body cam footage, you can see it was the exact opposite of that. Body cams in some way shape the way or actually help people realize what you were seeing when nobody else was around. So that's why I also like body cams. And then I've also seen other people get exonerated for whatever based on a video. So I love body cams. I think that they're very helpful in the work that we do. But I think sometimes, especially members of the public, seem to believe that body cams are end all be all. It fixes everything. It fixes all the problems. And that's couldn't be further from the truth, because the one thing about body cams is you don't always get all the accurate information. Body cams can't tell you what the emotions of an officer is feeling. That's an internal thing. So you can't use a body cam to say, oh, this is what I was feeling. You can maybe use it to paint a picture, but it's not necessarily going to tell you how you feel inside. And then body cams also don't pick up every single angle as well. And so the detriment to some of those body cams sometimes is you'll be looking at a situation and you may not see the other angles that come into play when it comes to making a decision. And an example I use is, let's take football, since it's football season right now. They have the sky cam, and when there's a flag on the play and the referees go out into the booth to determine whether or not they challenge the play on the field. The referee is not looking at that play from one angle. There's so many different cameras out on that field that he's able to take a look at it, like almost a 360 view of what actually occurred. And it's not till he takes that 360 gander at that whole situation that he can make a decision that he believes is fit for the call. Body cams don't work like that. Usually you're only going to get, the officer's view. And sometimes if he has a responding officer that come in, you'll get their angles, but you're not going to get that whole 360 degree angle like you would on a football field. And so sometimes people believe that just because you have a body cam on one person, that word is bond now. And now this is what happened. And, this is what it needs to be. And the officer was lying, or the officer wasn't lying, whatever it may be. So we can't get into this thing and think that body cams are end all be all. It's a fix to our problems. It's just another tool that helps, paint a picture. But again, that picture is not always what it may seem, kind of as Sean was referring to earlier. So I want to go straight to you, Sean, on this topic. The reason I want to go straight to you is because obviously you guys have a show that is centered around police footage. And then obviously with the new show, body cams, what's your personal take on body cams? And then, what are some things, obviously, like I said, you predated body cams and now you're living in time where you see body cams. So what are some of your thoughts with this whole new era?
Man, before I give my answer, I want to know if I need to go get a black hat out of my closet and put it in. So, we got the black and white T-shirts going. You guys got the hats. I do have a couple up there. So if I need to get one, I got caffeine and kilos on here, buddy.
My partner wears that all the time.
Yeah. It's good stuff, man.
I need some caffeine right now.
Yeah. No. So, I've been a police officer almost 23 years now. And, when we first came on the department, man, we didn't have computers in the cars. You know what I mean? You'd come to squad meeting. We had to share handheld radios from one shift to another. And, we all had our own police cars, but technology just wasn't up to speed, for our agency, at least at the time. So I've watched this transition through, the change of handwriting reports to having a computer in the car to then having a dash cam only in the car and then eventually moving to the body cam. And just part of, I think, people in general, and especially in our profession, we don't like change that much. And so going through these different things, it was always met with some complaints from officers because it was different. It wasn't the way we've done it before. But with each one of those things, they've clearly been beneficial to both the individual officer, the department, and the profession. Now, with us having these body cams out here, as you guys know, I cannot tell you how many times it exonerates officers from bogus complaints. It's helpful when you go back and you've got a defense attorney who doesn't believe that you Mirandized, the suspect, and this suspect confessed to everything to you. There's no way this guy would confess to it. And you're like, boom, let's go back and look at the body cam footage. You're like, yeah, your client's stupid, man. It's not my bad, and it just shows in court. So it is beneficial. There was some thoughts from some officers that, the department's going to be watching you, everything you're doing all the time, that type of deal. But I can tell you, man, management doesn't have time to do that, nor do they want to do that. If so, that there's some issues going on there outside of just having a body cam, in my opinion. But going back to the show, so yeah, when you take live PD, we've got cameras that are in cars live, but then when you look at PD cam, all the footage on that show comes from body cams, dash cams, and police helicopters. Incidents that have captured. We've got everything from, the incidents of officer-involved shootings to car chases, which is all the action stuff, the things that usually hit the news. But they got to remember, man, on these body cams, we're also recording life-saving efforts by officers, rolling up on a car accident or doing CPR on a kid or something like that. And it doesn't. It captures those side of things. And just because of the interaction that we have with the public from that show, it's opened a lot of people's eyes because they don't know firsthand what we see, what we deal with every day. And not to keep rambling on, but what other profession out there has a camera following them on their body all day long? None. I mean, seriously, none. And not only that, not only is there no other profession that has that, you've got this expectation and the demand from the public to see everything we're doing at all times. There's not another career out there that it's like that. So that's something, that we have to carry on our shoulders all the time that people don't understand. Of what that is like. So
what's funny is, as you said that, Sean, I was writing notes over here, and the very last note I wrote was, do you have a body cam at your work? And I'm not talking about you guys, I'm just talking about in general, is do you have a body cam at work? And if you did have a body cam at work, what would it capture? And the reason I brought that up is because there have been times where I've actually muted my cameras. And if you're not familiar with how the body cameras work, there's a couple options that you can do. Obviously, when you click the body camera, it basically goes back 30 seconds. So when it goes back 30 seconds, it doesn't actually have the audio because the camera's always streaming, but it doesn't, when it's streaming, it doesn't necessarily mean it's recording. So as soon as I hit activate, it goes back 30 seconds, so that way you can see what happened prior to that 30 seconds before I hit that button, but you're not going to get the audio. So then once it's on, there is a method that allows us to mute when we're talking to our fellow officers. And so there'll be times that we mute them. Now, the reason I bring that up is because I've actually been questioned before is, why did you mute your video? Well, there's certain things and certain conversations that I'll have with people that don't necessarily need to be captured. And it may not even be case related. It may be even like, and I'm going to get kind of vulgar, but it may be like, hey bro, I got to drop a deuce right now, bro. Like, I'll be right back. Like, I don't want that to be captured, because if this thing goes to court, and, the whole jury is looking at, this film being caught, and they just see, Ryan on there like, man, I got to go drop a deuce. The jury's going to look at me like, what's going on? Like, so there's certain reasons why we would mute it. But then that goes back to the same question is like, do you have a body cam at your work? And if you had a body cam at your work, what would it capture? And so, sometimes, again, going back to grace and mercy, sometimes people don't extend that same grace and mercy to police officers as we do to them. Think about hospitals and doctors. Like, so if we talk about just killing people, how many people die at the hands of malpractice? So what would happen if we start putting cameras in the operation rooms? What will we see there? And this is not a knock if there's somebody listening to us that's a medical doctor or who's a surgeon. I'm not saying specifically to you, but the statistics are out there that there's a lot of people that die from malpractice. So if we put a camera in that surgery room or that operation room, what will we catch? Will we see people in there listening to music? Will we see people in there, maybe not paying attention to something? We probably would. because you're human at the end of the day. So my point is that not to say that they need to put body cams in operation rooms, but just realize like these aren't the end all be all. And you still got to realize we're human beings. I'm not trying to mute my camera just to say, oh, I'm trying to cover up and, try to plant this conspiracy and plant drugs on somebody. Now, have there been officers that have done that? Yes, there has. But again, it goes back to because we're human beings, we have humans that are officers that shouldn't be officers, but that's not every officer out there. So what's your take on it, AJ?
Oh yeah, so mine is the opposite. And I'll be the first to say this is I am not a fan of body cameras. And keep in mind that I have had body cameras save me in IA investigations. This most recent incident, and here's why I'm not a fan of body cameras. I'll give you a hypothetical because I already know where people are going to go with this. You're working your beat. You see a 13-year-old kid walking down the street. He does something suspicious. You get to talking to him. You find out he's got a little piece of crack in his pocket, right? Like whether he took it from his uncle or dad or whoever, or he's out here selling it. Back in the day, prior to body cameras, hypothetically, of course, you would be able to have a conversation with this kid. Hey, this crack rock could ruin your life, right? You're going to catch a felony. I'm going to take it to the proper room. I'm going to have it destroyed. We're going to have it heart to heart. I'm going to hold you responsible. I'm going to pour into you. The issue now is, and I'm not saying this is everywhere, but it is a lot of places, is body cameras tends to take away officers' discretion. All right, my hands are tied now, kid. Guess what? You pulled that crack rock out, or I went in your pocket and I got it. It's on body camera. You're getting hit with this felony now. Now, I may be able to talk to the judge afterwards, depending on what judge we get and see what we can work out, but you're getting charged with a felony at the age of 13. Hypothetical situation. First reason I don't like body cameras. The second reason I'm not a fan of body cameras is we live in a society now where if it didn't happen on body camera, then it didn't happen. And I'm seeing this everywhere, right? Like how many times have each one of you heard something where an officer is like, oh yeah, no, like he hit me or he did this. And it's like, well, it's not a body camera. You get it on film. It's like, well, no, I didn't have the opportunity to. Right. And it's reverse, right? Like how many times has the general public heard an officer say like, oh, well, this happened. They're like, oh, no, that didn't happen. It was on body camera. Or what did you do when the camera was off? Same deal. And it's taken the trust away from police officers. Now, I get it. More officers are exonerated in complaints. The transparency is great. We get to catch criminal acts, right? And then we get to show that in court to prove that they did that. But I think that these two things, the first two things that I mentioned, are detrimental to law enforcement.
So, what's funny is what you just mentioned is you're absolutely right with those two things. And I want the public to understand something is, going back to the first hypothetical you gave, because we have body cams, there are situations where as an officer, I want to be able to give you a break on something. But because it may be perceived by somebody else that, I'm not doing something I should be doing, I can't give you that break anymore because now if they go back and look at my body cam and it sees me, letting you go on something that maybe I shouldn't let you go on, then it's going to look bad on me. And at the end of the day, I have a family to come home to and I'm not trying to lose my job. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and so, but I understand what you're saying is because going back to your second reason is because we've lost the trust with, as just being police officers in general, then we can't necessarily extend certain breaks to people of the public as we once could. So I get what you're saying 100%. This is funny. This is like the first time me and AJ have actually maybe had I don't even want to say it's a difference of opinion because I agree with every reason you gave, but it's almost like social media in a way. It's like social media is a thing that a lot of people don't like. And if you talk to Sean probably knows a lot more people that may not agree with social media and they don't like it just because of the era that they grew up in and so forth and so on, but it's not going anywhere. So now that it's because it's not going anywhere, it's one of those things like we have to adapt and learn to use it to our benefit as opposed to just complaining and saying, hey, I don't like this and it's not going anywhere.
Well, I'll argue that fact and say that I believe deep down inside that body cameras will eventually go away.
I doubt it.
Well, sorry, go ahead, AJ.
Reason number one, they are outrageously overpriced and the taxpayers are paying that money. Okay, instead of that money going somewhere else, they're going into these body cameras. And the second reason, these reasons go hand in hand, is there is a direct correlation between the time that officers are implemented body cameras to the increase of violent crimes. because officers tend to be less proactive, right? I have a camera on my chest, and Sean, you touched on it. I don't want to go out here, say I end up cussing at somebody because I'm passionate about this run. Now I'm getting paper hung on me, right? Or say I go out here and I'm chasing after somebody and I don't have my hat on, or X, Y, and Z. Officers feel like the community doesn't trust them, so officers are like, you know what? My job is to take a dispatch run. I'm going to take my dispatch runs. I'm not going to go out here and give anybody the opportunity to make me the next headline.
Yeah, and just what you were just talking about, I don't remember the agency, but I want to say it was down in Texas. There was an agency that just recently, they have body cams, and the sheriff, I think it was, that made a decision they're getting rid of them. And that were the two things they talked about. One was money, and two, he says it doesn't show like a higher level of trust or anything like that between the community and them. And he says it's not worth it for that reason. But going back to, the two examples that you gave, and you're right, this job has a ton of discretion. And for the most part, we get to exercise it at will. And there are situations where we can't. But your second scenario, it's spot on, is people now think if it didn't happen on body cam, it didn't happen. Or, just even going back to like you were talking about, muting it. I mean, you're in your car and you're on an investigation. You still got your camera running, and your girl calls you from home and you take that phone call. And so you mute it. But, the defense attorneys or people like that, you muted it. They want to just try to make you out to be a bad guy.
Yep.
And so they're not going to believe you. That's why you muted it. They're going to try to turn it into you were conspiring to do something wrong with other officers and blah, blah, blah. That's just the day and age, unfortunately, we're in right now, dealing with these cases. But I think we're going to see more and more agencies continue to get body cameras right now. But I would not be surprised with, just like you said, AJ, in time they may phase out for a lot of people. Because let's be honest, a lot of agencies are getting it through grants. There's money out there of why they're able to get it, and just the maintaining all the data that comes in. That's where the real money is, and how long-term some of these agencies, how they can do it, man.
Outrageous.
So this is a good conversation, because I think a lot of the reasons, and going back to AJ's second point, was the trust factor. Like, body cameras don't establish trust to me. What establishes trust to me is what your officers are doing every single day as they're investing in their community. It doesn't need to be captured on camera. It's those times where we're either, helping them out, or we've helped save their life, or we gave them a break. Those are the things that necessarily, develop trust within the community. However, on the same token, is we have to recognize that the ones that are making it harder for us, because I honestly wouldn't mind living in a life where we didn't have body cams, because the community trusts my word enough to know that, hey, what I said happened. But right. we both, all three of us know that there are officers out here that have been caught doing something that they shouldn't be doing. And it makes every single one of us look bad. Now, I will say that those incidents happen a lot less frequently than we think, but it makes it seem like it's like one of those. It goes back to those saying, like, we take 2 steps forward to take 10 steps backwards, and so because we have officers that are out there doing stuff they shouldn't be doing, it only reinforces in the community's mind, this is why we need body cams, because had we didn't have this body cam, we would have not known, or that we would have never known what would have happened or what really happened out there. And so there's two sides of this coin here, and I stand to believe, and I agree with what you're saying, AJ, is the negative aspects of having these body cams. But on the same token, because we have cameras, it's exonerated people. So it's almost like it's a fine line of, I personally believe if I was not a police officer and I was just a member of the community now knowing what I know now, I would say that if I see something on video, I can't take it as the totality of it. And I would have to stick by that. I can watch something, and as bad as it may look, I have to remember that there's still more to go into it, because I think that's the only way that we're going to be able to solve a lot of the trust issues when we're watching video, is to realize, like, hey, this is not everything that actually occurred. This is just a portion of it. Because going back to your situation, AJ, when you punched that dude in the face, that when you were talking to the dude on in the back of your car, it was captured on camera. And now I'm not saying that conversation is what, made the situation right. We knew the situation was right in the totality as it was. But because it was captured, it also, that video was also blasted out there to the community, and was all, when they actually received it, they were like, oh wow, I see another angle to it. And so, you know, I see both sides of the spectrum here, and there's times where I'm like, and I'll be sitting on stand or whatever, I'll be talking to a defense attorney, and they're trying to take something out of context because they saw something on video which wasn't true. You know what I mean? So, but it's a tough line. And yeah, if you guys don't know, members of the community, body cams are very expensive. So if you're saying like, hey, we need body cams, every police department needs a body cam, it's not, and the cameras itself aren't expensive. What's expensive is the storage of all those videos that we have. And so that's what makes it expensive. So if you want to sit here and say everybody should have a body cam, well, get ready because those taxpayer dollars are going to go up some more, because it's a lot of money to store that stuff on the cloud.
Oh, absolutely. And if you take into consideration the millions of dollars that departments spend a year on body camera storage, upkeep, and whatever that goes into the systems, imagine where else you could put that money to make a positive change in the community. And to me, like, that's what it comes down to. Like, I ultimately believe that the community is being hurt by officers being issued body cameras nationwide.
So let me give you this question real quick. My bad, Sean. Just a question for both of you guys. If we really wanted to see the community really start to put their faith and trust back into law enforcement, that means we as police officers need to start being able to hold each other accountable higher.
For sure.
And police each other higher, so that way we can get that trust back. So that way they know, like, hey, look, we're going to hold each other accountable. They're going to hold themselves accountable. If they screw something up, if they see something, they're going to say something about it. Because again, that's one of the things that they always say is, well, they don't hold each other, they don't hold themselves accountable, which we know a lot of times, majority of times we do, but there's been times that it doesn't happen. And so that's kind of what the happy median, I would say, that if we wanted body cams to go away, we got to say, well, we got to start calling people out if they're doing something shady. Well, go ahead, Sean. I know you wanted to say something.
Actually, that's what my question was going to be to you guys. Do you think that the public as a whole wants body cams because it helps police officers document a car stop or an arrest or whatever it may be? Or do you think the public as a whole wants it because they want to know, they want to see us, what we're doing if we're doing something wrong?
B,
yeah. I think they want to see us. They want to see what we're doing if we're doing something wrong.
Exactly. So from we in a law enforcement standpoint, we want it to document evidence. And, you know, it does. It helps out with interviews or document something that happened you can use in court. Not necessarily, you know, to make sure we're not doing anything wrong. But that's why I think the public as a whole, both those that are pro-police and anti-police, that's why, that's all they envision the body cam there for, to make sure the cops doing what they're supposed to be doing. As I said, when I came on the department, we didn't have dash cams, we didn't have body cams, and we have some people in our community who continually to this day make accusations that the Tulsa Police Department is doing things wrong. Just like any other police department across the country, you're going to have some people in your community that do that no matter what. So we put in dash cams. Guess what? Nothing was shown that, you know, that officer's doing something wrong. So we have put in body cams. We've had them 5 years now, maybe or so, 6 years. Guess what? Nothing's being shown anything's wrong. The same group was like, okay, in my opinion, is basically like, hey, okay, we didn't catch them doing something on dash cams. We haven't caught them doing something on body cams. So now they want a civilian oversight committee to look at our use of force deals. You know, it's just like, man, at some point we as in law enforcement have to say, hey, I'm sorry, whatever you think is there, it's not there. And especially at this cost of millions and millions of dollars. Like I said, that's, I think, the public's perception of what the body cam is supposed to be for, is to monitor us, and that's not why it's there, you know, at all.
And it's so funny, as you were saying that, Sean, it made me realize something, and that is, throughout time, there have always been a small percentage of people who have seemed to have the loudest voice when it comes to influencing police departments. And the issue with that is, and this is a prime example, is this small percentage of people now has opinions that affect a majority of people.
Oh, yep.
100%.
Absolutely.
In a negative manner, right? Like this small percentage of people who, no matter what police officers do, no matter what they see, it's wrong. Well, the officer shouldn't did that. Why is he dancing with kids? He needs to be at arrested somebody. That same officer goes out and arrests somebody. Well, he only arrested him because of X, Y, and Z. And it's just like, no matter what I do, it's clear you're going to have an issue with whatever I'm doing because I'm a police officer. Your issue isn't with right and wrong; it's with police and not police.
Exactly.
Right? But what happens is that small percentage now has a voice, and they're like, you know, we need body cameras. And now what happens? Crime rates skyrocket because police officers feel like the community doesn't trust them. They feel like they don't want to go out here and risk discipline or make a mistake that's going to have them on the headlines, and the taxpayer dollars go up. I mean, it's just like this steady spiral of issues, and it all breaks down to trust. And if you ask me, these body cameras are just dividing it.
And we can't sit here though and say, though, just playing devil's advocate, we can't say that all of the reasons why officers are not being productive is because of the body cams. I personally believe that the reason why a lot of officers aren't being productive is because a lot of the laws that are changing, the laws that are going in favor of criminals doing criminal activity. For example, here in California, when they made the crimes from, a lot of the drug charges went from felony offenses to misdemeanor offenses.
Crazy.
When you as an officer, when you arrest somebody, for, possession of methamphetamine or whatever, and you go arrest them and you see him out 3 hours later, it's almost like, wow, like, what's the point of arresting this dude when I know he's going to be out? And then the other part of that is they just passed another law out here in California that basically mandates police agencies to release body camera footage within the first 90 days if a critical incident happens, like an OIS or something like that. The reason why that's dangerous is because think about how long does it take to investigate an officer-involved shooting? AJ, I know you've been involved in officer-involved shooting. Sean, I'm sure either directly or indirectly you've been involved in an OIS, I'm going to assume, whether it's an investigation side of it or somebody. But typically, how long would you say an officer-involved shooting takes to investigate?
Mine was a year.
Man, wow. Okay, so your volume cut out on me there for a minute, and I think I understood what you said. I've been involved in 2 shootings, and they take time, man. And I'll be honest, both of mine were pretty clear-cut deals. First one, I open a door, dude starts shooting at me. I return fire back at him, and he got hit. Second one, I was in a foot chase in one of our housing projects. Dude fell down, came up with a gun, and so I shot at him. They were both pretty clear cut. But the first one, man, 3 months probably.
Wow.
I mean, it took about 3 months to get through. That was the totality of it. It was when I was on the SWAT team, and so it just. There were other officers involved. It was just a longer deal. But here in Tulsa, man, we haven't had one, as long as like what AJ's talking about.
What was yours, AJ? I didn't hear yours.
Mine took a year. From the date of the incident to me receiving my letter that I did nothing wrong and congratulations, you're okay, took a year.
The reason I pose that question to you is that if we release video within 90 days of an incident, what ends up happening is the public is like, oh my goodness, the officer is guilty by charge, or he shouldn't have done this, blah 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 blah. But now we start making assumptions, and we don't even have an investigation that's already been completed. And so one of the things that we always preach is, let's let the investigation take its place, and before we start making judgments. Now, I do Tillman's takes, and when I do Tillman's takes, I do a breakdown of videos that I've seen, and the investigation may not be completed, but usually when I'm doing a Tillman take on, I'm either breaking down either tactically or why it was good or why it wasn't. But I'm not necessarily rendering a judgment based on the totality of the incident in its entirety. So when you release a video within 90 days, you now start to cause people to form an opinion based on the situation without actually knowing all the situation. So for example, I did a breakdown of the Alton Sterling one probably about 2 months ago, and it took that whole investigation from start to finish was over a year. And that's when it worked its way from the small courts to the upper courts and the whole 9 yards. And let's imagine if they would have released, actually the video came out, I think, almost ASAP after they shot Alton Sterling. So when they shot Alton Sterling, the video came out within a week or 2 weeks, and the video was, the people were already in uproar. They were, they were rioting, they were doing this, they were doing that. Well, then when the whole case was done over and said with, we found out that everything was justified, everything was okay, but you never found the media come back and say, oh, well, actually everything was fine. We take back everything we said. We take back all the rioting we did. We take back all that stuff because the officer's actions were justified. So I believe that's also a problem with body cams, is that when we start releasing information too quickly, again, you don't know all the facts. You don't know everything that went into it. We can't just start taking video as being, hey, this is everything that happened. Because what video also doesn't show, it doesn't show what the call for service was. Video doesn't show is who called in and said what they said. The video doesn't show, that if a guy, there's a shooting that occurred in Colorado recently where the guy was pulling out his gun and it got caught in his pants. Video doesn't necessarily show that. They didn't find that out till after the fact when they went and looked at his pants and they saw the gun was caught on the webbing of his shorts. So how do you know that? So to them, it looks like this officer shoot the guy in the back, but it's really the gun got caught as he was trying to pull it out of his shorts. So, I like I said, I'm in the middle on this one as well, just because the video has saved me from, I remember somebody reported to my watch commander that while I was searching his vehicle, that I broke his center console and I also broke his glove box while I was searching his car. Well, when my watch commander hit me up, I'm like, that's funny because I never even searched his car. Like, I never even touched his car. And he's like, well, the guy is saying when you went in his car, you broke his center console and blah, 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 blah. So he went back, he watched the video, and he can see on the video that I never even went inside of his car. Never even touched his car. So it actually got me out of some trouble. But going back to AJ's point again, people believe that if it's not on video, it didn't happen. If it's on video, then that tells the whole story. So, I mean, this is very, very interesting subject and how we all perceive things as well.
Another issue as you were talking that I thought of is, and I'll use two different examples. Ryan, you played football. How many times did you finish up a game and then somebody told you like, man, you should have did this or you should have did that? You like, hold up.
All the time.
You wasn't out there on the field with me. Like,
all
you
the
didn't
time.
see these massive giants running towards me, right? And then I'll use this example because we've all been police officers for enough years that we've all been in a physical altercation. So how many times have you been involved in a physical altercation or seen someone else involved in a physical altercation and overheard a third party say, oh, well, that person should have did this? And it's just like, hold on. Like, do you not know what it's like to be involved in a fight? Like, you have so many other things running through your mind right now. Like, it's easy for you to Monday morning quarterback this because you weren't involved in it. And that exact same principle applies to police work and body cameras. A majority of people will never understand what it's like to be a police officer. All the things that are constantly running through our mind, the environmental circumstances, the danger cues, like the warnings, everything that goes into being a police officer that we've learned in the academy and or on the streets. So they'll never fully understand the video, even if they have it all, right? Like, we could release the entire video to the general public and they might still never fully understand it because they don't have the training and or the experience that we have.
Right. And just following up, just when you're talking about, someone judging us being in a fight, every single fight one of us gets into out there on the job, there's at least one gun involved, ours. You know what I mean? And so, people don't understand that, man. We've got to think about that gun. And whenever we do get in a fight with somebody, it's different than a street fight for us and somebody if you're at a bar or whatever, right. Because we're in uniform. There's different things we can and cannot do when we get in a fight like that.
Right.
We're going to get sued. We're going to lose our job. Whereas if it just, some dude's talking crazy to you in a bar and you're like, all right, let's bang. And you guys get in a fist fight, it is what it is and it's done.
Right.
But that doesn't work for us in uniform. And to follow what you were saying, Ryan, about the shooting in Colorado, that's one thing that I think it was Colorado Springs, if I remember correctly. But when they released the body cam footage of that incident, and LAPD, I think, is doing this now as well. When some agencies are releasing the officer-involved shooting, body cams, they are, I'm trying to think how to describe it. I don't want to use the word, they're not altering anything or formulating anything, but they are taking the time to break the video down with words in it, explaining, they're listening to dispatch call. They're stopping the video. They're pointing, with an arrow on the screen to show, the subject's grabbing his waistband here and stuff like that. So when it does get released out to the media, it is a little more, has more of an explanation because, like you said, you guys there in California have to release it right away. And that's the one in Colorado Springs. I watched that whole thing, and they released that whole entire call. It was an armed robbery that came in. The kid that got robbed, he named who the suspects were, gave a description. An officer ends up finding them. I don't know if you guys have seen that video.
I have, yeah.
But okay, well, when the officer says, he's holding them, tells them to put their hands up, and the other officers arrive on the scene, and he says, hey, we got to call if someone has a gun on him. And there's two suspects, and you see the one that doesn't have the gun, he turns and looks right back at the other dude. It's for us in law enforcement, you know right away that's the dude that's got the gun on him.
Bingo.
You know, and the public watching that wouldn't even catch that. You know what I mean? And so the second officer goes over to pat that guy down. He actually bypasses the first subject to go pat the one he thinks has the gun. Dude breaks and runs, and his right hand immediately goes to his waistband where that gun's at. And you're right, they shot him in the back. The kid died, unfortunately, but this was, it was his actions that brought this upon himself, obviously. But had just the body cam, I think, been released on that, you see, I think he's,
way differently.
17-8, has his hands in the air, turns and runs, officer shoots him in the back. But now that it was explained through, without a doubt, the perception of what happened out there was changed to understand why the officer did what he did.
You say it way differently.
I love that idea. I love that idea.
I say, and that's the way agencies need to do it, man. They've got to take the time before they cut it out there to give the explanation and pause it and show different things before they just go, here you go, channel whatever, blast us on TV.
Exactly.
Yeah. Ryan,
go ahead, AJ.
Ryan, Officer Daniels, and Mike the cop, all three did video breakdowns of my incident. And almost immediately, people were sending me letters apologizing. Like, I'm so sorry. I never thought of this. Like, I knew you were a good guy. I love that idea. This is the first time I've ever heard about that. I love.
Oh yeah,
that idea.
So that's like been a norm, and a lot of agencies out this way are doing it because, again, it's a way to paint this picture. And that's why we started doing Tillman takes. And I didn't realize when me and Billy started doing Tillman takes, I didn't realize Tillman takes were going to be that popular. I don't even know why we did it. I think one just really got underneath my skin. I saw something that really got underneath my skin, and I was like, you know what? Let me just break this down, because people don't. And this is where we have to realize as cops is we forget that people don't think like cops. Before I became a police officer, I never thought like a police officer, obviously, because I wasn't one. And so now that I am one, we can't forget that majority of the public that we deal with, they don't think like we do. And so it wasn't until that I saw a few videos and I was like, wow, and just like you mentioned, Sean, like when we're watching that video and that guy immediately looked at his buddy, you and I both knew. I was like, oh yeah, that's the guy that has it. But nobody else from the general public would actually even think of that, because they were like, oh, it reminds me of a time I pulled somebody over they didn't have a license plate on the front of their car. And so when I pulled them over, as I'm getting ready to do it, there was four people in the car, 2 guys in the front, 2 guys in the back. As soon as I got behind them, I saw one dude in the back seat just dip down real quick and then dip up. And then so I was like, oh, that was kind of weird. So then I pull him over. I talked to the driver and say, hey, I pulled you over for blah, 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 whatever it was. I asked him, hey, is there anything illegal in the car? Any weapons, anything? And it was the slightest thing. He was just like, he looked at me, he was like, oh no. And it very, very slight though. Very, very slight. So in my mind, that's 2 things that I've already got off on my alert meter. Like, hey, 1, the guy in the back dipped up real quick. And 2, there was a slight hesitation that to the normal person wouldn't even think twice of. Lo and behold, we end up searching the car and there's a loaded firearm in the back seat on the ground. And so what I realized happened is when he dipped down, he was putting that gun underneath the seat. And then the guy in the front, he knew there was a gun in the car. That's why he hesitated, but he was like, oh, I don't want to tell him that there's a gun in the car. So that's why it's so good to give context, so good to explain things away. And I think there's a happy medium that we have to find as both police officers and the public if we wanted to make things work. So what I came down with one word as we're having this discussion. There's one word that sums this all up. And if we can improve on this one word, then I think that will make things better. And I think both of you guys know the word I'm going to say is trust. There's trust. Trust is a word that this is the reason why we're having this discussion, is because the community doesn't trust police, and then the police feel like the community doesn't trust us. And so how do we fix? So I'm going to ask you guys one last question before we start wrapping things up. But AJ, I'll go to you first on this one. What do we need to do in order to improve trust? Because for you don't like body cameras, honestly, and you don't think we should have them. So, I'm a solutions-based guy. So if we're going to find a solution to something, if we don't like something, then what's the solution? So if you don't like body cams, how do we develop more trust with the community so that way the community doesn't need to rely on body cams to tell the whole story?
I personally think that before you receive your driver's license, that you should be required to do a ride-along with the police. I think it will give you a better understanding on why we do what we do, and it will give police officers better understandings are better. It'll force police officers to better understand the community they serve, because they'll be interacting on a personal basis much more with people in the community they serve. So it's a double-edged sword. I wish I had like a quick fix, like a light switch where you could be like, "Oh, okay, this is what you got to do," and it'll fix the trust. I think that there have been years and years and years of incidents on both sides, right? The police messing up, the community messing up, that has driven us further and further apart. So this trust bridge is going to be hard to build. But I do think that better understanding why each party does what we do. Oh, you know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I think people should do ride-alongs at the ages 16, 17, just to help understand why we do our job.
No, I love that idea, AJ. Those are some good ideas, and I mean, I've never thought about the fact of putting somebody on a ride-along. It's funny though that you bring that up, because anybody that's been a naysayer of police officers, I always ask them, go on a ride-along. And you know what's funny is they always say, "No, I don't want to do that." But again, that goes back to my statement that I made a long time ago. It's just popular not to like the police. And if you get in a police car and do a ride along, now it makes it look like you like the police, and you don't want to be seen like that, which is why you're not going to go on a ride along. So I've had multiple people tell me that they don't want to go on a ride along. And it actually frustrates me, because it's like, if you really have something so against the way police officers do police work, then go and see why we do what we do. Go firsthand. It's not like we're telling you you can't. We're saying, hey, come ride with us. And, you know, at the very least, if you don't like police, at the very least, you walk away and say, "Yep, see, I told you so. This is why I don't like police."
Right. It just helps you out, right? Like you can say, "Well, oh, I seen this officer do this, right? Now I knew this is why they do
exactly.
this."
Worst case scenario. But the fear is, here's the fear, AJ. The fear is that when they go on that ride along and they come out of it, they're gonna say, "Dang, this is not what I thought it was. This was a lot different than I perceived it to be." And that's why they don't want to do it. That's the fear we're going on a ride along, is because now all of a sudden, man, I was proven wrong, and it goes back to pride. People have so much pride that they don't want to be proven wrong to say now, "Oh, all of a sudden, for so long I was against police officers, but now I see it differently." And this is coming from somebody that didn't like police all the time, but it wasn't until I got in a police car that I started seeing things differently, man. So I think that's a great idea.
Absolutely. And just to touch on that real quick, a little bit further, I had a ride along a couple years ago. He went through roll call and he was like looking around nervous. I'm like, man, this is going to be a long 8-hour shift, right? Like this dude is already nervous when he left the roll call station yet. We start loading up the cruiser. I grabbed the shotgun, put it in the shotgun rack, and he looks at me. He goes, "Hey, do I get a bulletproof vest?" And I just busted out laughing, like, "Oh man, like
that's hilarious."
That just shows you he was scared, and we ain't even left the substation lot yet. Yep. He was already scared. So it show, it just shows like, hey, this is real when you out here.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So Sean, I'm gonna go to you. You still there, Sean?
I'm still here. Can you see me, hear me?
I can't see you, but I can hear you though.
I could both. I could visualize you and I can hear you, brother.
You're still lucky then.
Oh man. So Sean,
no, man,
go ahead.
No, so I will say this. I think the public as a whole does still trust us. I do. Because we in law enforcement, all we deal with are people either doing wrong or at a bad moment in their life. You know what I mean? That's just for the most part. That's when the police get called out to someone's place. I've said it before. I may have said it on here. We don't get called to somebody's house because their kid came home with straight A's that day. We get called because their son beat the hell out of their mom or whatever's happened. That's usually where we're interacting with people, or on a car stop for a traffic infraction or whatever it may be. And so we're dealing with people agitated and upset at the situation or whatever it is. So they're generally not happy to see us. I think a big part of it is because of this day and age with social media, that people can put anything they want. They can put an opinion out. That a lot of people, I don't know if the word is simple-minded or they're lazy. They don't take the time to find out facts and truth on their own. If they've got a belief that they believe in and they see something on there, they just run with it, and that it just keeps getting spread around. I'm fortunate because of this, live PD and the contacts I get to have with the public. Whether I'm traveling or events that I'm at or and things like that, I can tell you, man, I get stopped every single day outside of uniform by people who are appreciative of law enforcement. And I cannot tell you also how many times through social media that I've had messages come in to me from people who flat out have said, listen, man, I didn't like the police. I don't like the police. I've had bad interactions with the police or whatever it is. And they said, but by watching, and this isn't a live PD plug, I'm just saying, but by watching that show and watching things firsthand and seeing how an officer could stop a car for speeding, clearly, it's recorded, it's on national TV that the person was speeding. We walk up to the car and right away, you're getting F you this, F you that. They don't have a license. They've got warrants for their arrest. They've got a gun in the car. And, and so it's been an eye opener, I think, for a lot of the general public because they haven't done ride-alongs. They don't, they have this idea of what our job is, but they really don't know. So I'm just kind of wrapping that all together. I don't think the trust is as bad as it's perceived to be. I just think there are more outlets now for people that don't trust us to get out and voice it, and just, much like AJ said earlier, it's that squeaky wheel or, that gets all the attention. And so that's the kind of stuff that just keeps getting put out there over and over again, makes the news because it's, it draws attention and so forth. And one last thing, just as you were saying, tell people to come to do ride-alongs. Two things on that. I say the same thing to people when I, have to do some of these public presentations on our well-to-do parts of the city who want to know about gangs, even though they've never even seen a gang member roll through their neighborhood ever, but they want to know about it. And I tell them, go do a ride-along, but don't do it down here in the south part of the city where it's nice, in your own. Go to another part of the city that you've never even been to, and go see what other people are living like or what the police are dealing with up there, and just listen to the calls that come in on the radio. Other people have no idea just the call load that comes in and all the different, you and I might be running to a domestic and there's other officers running to a burglary in progress. Someone else is running to this, just they hear all this stuff that's going on. But to those people that, like you're talking about, you tell them to come do a ride along or they're complaining about this job or what, I'm like, hey, we're hiring. Come join us. You think you know how to do this job, do it better? Tulsa Police are hiring, man. Come on. Yep. Come on. We're hiring.
And I think that's what the chief of Texas said a few years ago. Like, you see all these problems, come join us. We're hiring. So, that's what I think it comes down to. And I love what you said, Sean, is that, the perception of trust is the issue, because I agree with you. There's a lot of people that still trust police out there. There's a lot of people that still like police, but we all have to just realize that we always can do things better. And police officers, my plea to police officers is that don't be afraid to educate people. Like, sometimes it's just a level of education of what we do and why we do it. As simple as that. I know sometimes people get standoffish and they feel like, man, why should I have to do that? But that's the part where you got to realize, like, not everybody thinks like police officers. Majority of people don't. Majority of people don't have the mindset that we do. And so because of that, when you don't have that mindset of an officer or a deputy, you start to think like, why are they doing that? There's no reason they should be doing that. Well, when you're educated about it, when you say, hey, this is why we do this, or this is why we do that, this is how I respond to that, it's like that light bulb. You can see the light bulb go off like, oh, I never thought about it that way. And so don't be afraid to educate people. And yeah, you may feel like you have to go out of your way to do it, but what? Sometimes it's necessary, because by you educating one person, it may save somebody else's life. You know what I mean? And the reason I say that is because just a simple little education may save somebody from saying, hey, I'm going to call the police, or I'm going to share information with the police because I know why they're doing it. I know they're doing it because they're trying to help us, not because they're trying to be shady. So, man, I think this was a great conversation, a great conversation. So, before we transition out, you got any fair fouls, AJ? I haven't had any fair fouls in a while.
I know you have one that you want to get off your chest, so I'm gonna let you rock this one, brother.
This is more so my kids. I love my kids dearly, but so tell me why today I'm getting ready for this podcast, and every single time, like me and Billy are like, hey, we're gonna start on time today. Like, we are gonna start at 1:00, and so I'm in here and I'm like, why do I not have any internet connection? So I'm like thinking, I'm like, go, and I'm like, man, I know my internet connection ain't as bad as AJ always be talking about it.
Oh, here we go.
so I go to my closet. I'm like, man, let me see. So I'm looking. I was like, why are all the lights off? Like, shouldn't the lights be on, like on my little router? So then I look at the wall, and my router is like unplugged. And I'm like, why is my router unplugged right now? So I think back, as an officer does, I go into my investigative mode. And I remember my sons were in my closet playing around this morning. My sons just pulled the whole plug out of the wall, like, and then pulled another plug out that was separately connected. I'm like, what is going on here? So fair or foul that my sons try to sabotage your boy today for the podcast.
I'm gonna go fair because he was just trying to let you know, like, Dad, I'm tired of this bootleg internet. I'm gonna just unplug it. It's worthless. Go ahead and get the good stuff, Dad.
Man.
So it's fair.
Oh man. So, hey, well, where we at what time, Billy?
Hour 4.
So okay, cool. So hey, Sean, where can all of our new listeners follow us? We got since the first time we did this, I can't even remember the first time we had you on, Sean. It's been a
minute. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. So we all got a lot of new followers now. So we, like Billy said before, we TikTok famous now. So it's are you on TikTok, Sean?
I'm not.
Man, so
don't do it. It's addictive.
Is it really?
It's addictive, yeah.
Man, I was like, so it's like Instagram, but just I'm still trying to figure it out. I made my first TikTok video last night, but it was weird though. So check this out. I'm at school the other day, since I'm the SRO. And so some of my students come up to me. They're like, Officer Tillman, you TikTok famous. And I'm like, what? Like, huh? Because, Billy's been running the TikTok page behind the scenes. And then they're like, yeah, you TikTok famous. So I go on there. I'm like, man, we got like 30,000 followers. So, Billy walked in the house and was like, yeah. And we just got it like 5 days ago. So I was like,
wow.
I'm almost as famous as Oh No, it's a Popo. I'm almost there, man. So, but yeah. So, Sean, can you just tell all of our listeners and viewers where they can find Live PD at Police Body Cam and stuff like that?
Yeah. So Live PD is every Friday and Saturday night on A&E television, cable TV. Like I said, the new season starts back up September 20th on that Friday. PD Cam is also part of the Live PD family. That'll be starting up in a few more weeks. I'm not sure on the start date yet. And of course, man, anybody can follow me out there. I don't have TikTok, but I am on Instagram and Twitter, and it's Sean, SEAN_C_Larkin. So, yeah, I'll take anybody and everybody. I always love chatting with people on there.
But everybody already know who you are, so.
Whatever, man.
So my question, though, is that obviously Live PD must be doing very well to go on his 4th season. So that means ratings got to be pretty good, right, Sean?
Man, it is the #1 cable television show. It is the most watched television series on cable. We have been #1 every Friday and Saturday night, both shows. But with college football start on Saturdays, we'll drop on Saturdays. But man, it gets like 2.1 to 2.4 million viewers an episode. It's crazy, man. It's absolutely crazy.
So
seriously, it's insane.
So that every question that I ask, there's a reason for it. And the reason I
have no doubt.
So the reason I ask that question is because I would imagine that there's probably some of your viewers out there, of that 2 point whatever million viewers you just listed, that don't like police. But I just find it funny how they may not like police, but yet they like to watch the police shows.
Let me tell you, man, it is every single day when I hit the streets out here. All my gangsters, all the bad guys, people coming out of their house, everybody. Sticks, man, why aren't you on Live PD this week? And why are you here? Hollywood, this and that. Man, I saw you on the TV. Absolutely, man. They sit and watch it. Absolutely. Hey, listen, man, it's not to drag this thing on, but people, the public, society, law enforcement draws people to it, man. They want to watch it. There's movies, television shows, series. You go to a party, and you're a police officer there, we're probably the lowest paid people in the room. You're going to have doctors and lawyers and accountants and whatever. Nobody wants to talk to those dudes and hear their stories.
Yep.
They want to hear about you at work. They want to hear about something you did. Tell me a funny story. What's the craziest thing? It's just good guy or bad guy, man. People pay attention and watch it. So yeah.
So I say that as a follow-up because I had a post yesterday that said right now is the best time to be a police officer. And obviously there were some officers that came on there and said, no, this is actually the worst time or whatever. But the follow-up to that is that I want to give you guys some encouragement as police officers out there that no, this is the best. And the reason why it's the best is because that every day you put on that badge and that gun is an opportunity for you to go out there and change somebody's life for the positive every single day. It may not be easier from the standpoint of the laws are getting more relaxed. It may not be easier because you have to wear a police body camera on your footage or on your person. It may not be easier in those aspects, but it's the best time because you have an opportunity to impact somebody's life that day. That's why it's the best time. And like Sean just said, people still love you. People still love the police. People are still going to look forward to you. They may not like the police, but I can guarantee you in an emergency, they're going to call 911 and they're going to expect you to show up at their house and help them out. That's why it's the best time to be a police officer. Not because all the frivolous things that we have to deal with on our day in and day out job duty, but just because you are the one person that has the opportunity to leave a positive impact in somebody else's life. That's why it's the best time to be a police officer. So go ahead, AJ. I'm gonna let you go ahead and close it out with your last comments.
Front row seat to the greatest show on earth. That's what police work is right there. That's all I got to say. Dang,
man, you over here leaving quotes and stuff. You over here dropping bars and stuff, you know. I appreciate it. I'm going to, Billy, copyright that, Ryan Tillman. So, hey, this podcast is being brought to you by the one and only BBU. Shout out to all of our team that help run this. Shout out to the Savage. Savage, you always come through for us. And hey, Sean, man, me and AJ and Billy, we just waiting to come. We want to come in the studio of Live PD. We want to come check it out firsthand.
They ain't ready for that.
Come drop in, man.
They ain't ready for that.
We need to do a field trip. Let's get this field trip going. We talked about it a year ago. We need to be about it now.
I know that city now, man. It's like a second home, so I know all the spots to go too. So in addition to just the studio, man, we could have a good time, I promise.
Oh, that's cool, man. So Sean, I want to thank you again, man. You don't have to take the time out of your day to jump on this podcast with us, man, but it is truly, truly appreciated. So thank you for everything you're doing, man. You encourage me just for doing what you're doing and being who you are. And AJ, man, I don't always tell you this, bro, but you also encourage me, bro. You like my Brody. You my Brody. So I appreciate you, man. And I don't always tell you that. So without getting all, what is that? What's the word?
Sentimental.
Sentimental. That's why I became a cop, because I'm
soft.
Soft.
Yeah, soft. Without getting all soft on y'all, but I do truly care about you guys. So in the meantime, we are going to get, real quick. So what y'all laughing at, man? What you laughing at me for, AJ?
Bro, this dude's internet, man.
hey, get off my bootleg internet, man. Get off my bootleg internet.
Yeah, if you were playing Xbox, you're gonna lose every game, man.
Every time.
I do got a special.
Your guys could be sacked. You'd be getting sacked already before you even knew the ball was high.
Oh man! Before I release y'all back to y'all fantasy football and watching football the rest of the night, I didn't tell you, AJ. I told Sean before we got on, but me and my boy Billy, we're gonna be taking a special field trip to the NBC studios tonight. They were acknowledged. So by the time our listeners and viewers hear this, it would already have aired. But I will be live on NBC in about 3 or 4 hours. They're awarding me the hometown hero. So I'll be on there for like 30-40 seconds. So yeah. So I gotta go get ready. They gotta do my makeup. So I got to feel what it's like. Sean, they gonna put makeup on me. So I don't know what that's like.
I love it. It's my favorite part, man.
Speaking of soft.
Oh man. So I figured I'd tell you guys that right now. So all of our listeners and viewers. It's only because of you guys that things like this are happening, so we appreciate it. There's a lot of big things coming for Breaking Bears Unite, a lot of things coming for It's Needed, a lot of big things coming. So if at the very least, go on our podcast, leave us a 5-star rating if you can, but don't just leave us a 5-star rating. Write something and tell us why this is your favorite podcast or why you listen to it, because again, that helps us tailor this podcast for you, because this is why we do it for you. So thank you guys, love you, and we'll see you guys next week.
Peace.